election victory a sham, tonight Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro says he is pulling his diplomats out of the U.S., while the Trump administration is refusing his demand that all American diplomats leave Venezuela.
The regime of former President Nicolas Maduro is illegitimate. We therefore consider all of its declarations and actions illegitimate and invalid.
Can the U.S. protect Americans there?
But if any harm should come to these diplomats from the United States, I want everybody to know that the consequences, I believe, from this administration that they'll impose will be swift and they'll be decisive.
The face-off between the U.S. and Venezuela escalating after President Trump recognized 35-year-old opposition leader Juan Guaido as interim president. He was out of sight today, possibly fearing arrest. Now a long list of countries joining the U.S. supporting Guaido.
It's a kleptocratic government. It's done terrible things, and so we want Venezuela to have a new start.
But Russia is propping up Maduro, whose government has sent the economy into freefall.
Very hard situation because we are very afraid. We don't know what is going to be for near future.
Tonight, Venezuela's generals threw their support behind Maduro, a major blow to the opposition. But many
enter the U.S. through the southern border are now being told to stay in Mexico until their case is processed. The new course of action, called the Migrant Protection Protocols, are going into place on Friday. The policy will give some migrants a notice to appear in U.S. immigration court, but they will be required to wait in Mexico until their hearing. Assistant to the President Kellyanne Conway calling the measure reasonable.
People are still having their claims processed, but at the same time, we're not forced to release people into the interior of the United States with no other recourse.
At the same time, though, a newly formed caravan made up of migrants, primarily from Central America, is making its way to the southern border. According to the Department of Homeland Security, more than 94,000 Central American families were caught crossing illegally into the U.S. last year.
They put one foot in our country, right? And we got them.
But not everyone is on board with this plan. The National Border Patrol Council, which typically supports the president, says entry and encourage illegal crossings.
If they come across illegally, you can't send them back. You have to go through the whole process. So who would you be sending back is the individuals that go to the ports.
And Mexican officials fear the new policy may overwhelm border cities, and legal challenges are expected in U.S. courts.
702 miles are immoral. That is an incredibly interesting place to draw your line about what's moral and what's not moral. I think this debate got way too political. I do think, let me say again, I think the president has shown more willingness to move so far than others have, but we need to solve this.
I agree with that priority. Right, but she certainly did seem to win, Julie, on that front in terms of keeping the money away from the president.
She absolutely did. I share Jason's winner in this situation. It is definitely Nancy Pelosi, not only on the shutdown itself and how she negotiated with the White House. She comes out of this with her caucus more united than they were when they were sworn in as the new Democratic majority just a few weeks ago. She's got those freshmen who were emboldened coming out of their elections who are now firmly behind her because they see that she is willing to hold a tough line against the president. And for the president, I think one of the things that we really learned through this last few weeks is that he really does not have a strategy for dealing with a Democratic House majority, not just on the shutdown, but more broadly. This is the first time in his presidency that he has an opponent that
just hold out and we'll get the Democrats to crack and join us. He was unable to do that.
All right, so we've got 19 days of negotiations. Can the president get
some of these folks? Do you really believe that'll happen in 3 weeks? Well, if Democrats have always in the past voted for some barrier, and now they're not going to because it's being offered by President Trump, that's politics. That means we'd still have a crisis at our border. If in 3 weeks they said before, if you open it up, then we'll negotiate, they won't. They are the ones causing the problem. They have changed the course of what they voted for in the past. Speaker Pelosi had voted for a wall and barrier. Schumer had voted for a wall and barrier. But now they will not because it's President Trump. I think that's wrong. The Gang of Eight bill, the infamous Gang of Eight.
I'm not a TSA worker. I'm not just a federal agent. I'm not just a member of law enforcement. I'm a citizen of this country. And the people that we're putting in charge to run this country are not doing a good job of what we pay them to do. They ask you to drug test welfare recipients and are not willing to be drug tested themselves. They ask you or promise you that you're not going to have to pay for something and then say, well, I'm only going to do it if you pay for it. At some point, there's another thing to do besides what we're being told can be done. You know, politicians get together, they make deals behind our backs in rooms, and I'm not sure any of those deals really benefit the greater good. But if the greater good is to be served, maybe we need to start doing what they're doing in Paris, and everyone take to the streets and demand radical change right now.
Something's got to happen, man, because this is just so impossible for these people, these poor people.
Yeah, the workers deserve